Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going through my trades for Supercoach ahead of round 3. Let's get into it. Okay, so a lot has happened since the last episode, and as you can see, unfortunately, Milan Murdoch is out a week after I brought him in, which it just sucks because, you know, you've already got Track out, you've already got Rosie out, Sharp's a question mark, and now you've just got one more. But ultimately, he's not a trade out, and, you know, it is what it is. I took the risk on when I traded him in, and I will say it was looking like the correct decision, because those who didn't trade him in were thinking now, do I get Murdoch or do I get Watkins? But now I guess the choice is made for all of us. So my trades have deviated a bit since I last recorded, and I'm still going the same two primos out. You got Rosie and Christian Petrarca out. And I'm still bringing in Tristan Cherry and Braden Cook. And the trades I made at the end of the round wrap had me trading out Jack Carroll and getting in Josh Worrell. But I just think that Watkins is too much of a must-have now. He played, I think it was 60% CBAs with Rosie in for half a game. And now that Rosie is injured, of course, he should get more. He's up against West Coast. And we look at his run. He's got West Coast and Richmond. Two good matchups. And he should get up to about at least that 300k mark. So if we use Supercoach Projector and project him scoring 70s or so, He'll get up to 300k by week 7. And especially with Rosie looking out for a while, it means he's less likely to get kicked out of the team once Ollie Wines comes back in, which was always a worry with Jack Watkins and why a lot of us didn't start him and were hesitant to trade him in. But now, given Rosie is out, it looks like he has that extra set of job security. Tristan Cherry, I think he's just a must-have. If you look at his run, it's just not funny how much he's going to score and how expensive he's going to get. Supercoach themselves have him projected a 151 and rising up 36k, which this is 100% unders. He should at least be looking at 170 against Blackiston. We saw how woeful he was against... woeful was a bit harsh, but we saw how much Jordan Sweet scored against him. And that's Jordan Sweet in his first game of the season. And Supercoach has him getting up to 800k by round 8 and then finishing the season at 818. And it's probably not going to happen because this would be an unreal level of scoring. I don't think it has him dipping below 141, but these first couple rounds are definitely unders. If he goes 170 against Essendon, we'll go 140. I'll give Mark Pitney the benefit of the doubt. And then 171, and then against Richmond, whoever they're facing, it could be another 190, 200. At that point, he's 806k in 4 rounds, and you're not going to be able to get him in. Basically, he rises more in price than most of the cash cows in this next 5-week stretch. I just think it is really now or never with Sherry. And it's a bit unfortunate that I traded Luke Jackson in, because there's been he got a corky in training, and it means that I'm going to have to run McAndrew on the bench. But I went through this in the round wrap, and I'll go through it again. I think it's not that bad running McAndrew at R3 for a couple rounds, because this round, of course, English is out. Then we go to next round, and Cherry, of course, plays Essendon. Cherry plays Carlton. English plays Essendon. And Jackson, if it will click, plays Adelaide. So it's 3 good, easy ruck matchups. Lachlan McAndrew, he has a bit of a tough run. He's got Geelong, of course, when English has his bye, but then he's got Freo, Carlton, and Saints. And then, fingers crossed, Luke Jackson will get some more DPP time, because with that injury, I think, I haven't heard rumours anywhere, but I think that it'll mean he'll spend some more time just resting forward and less time in the midfield. Because I don't, like, against such an easy opponent as Richmond, no offence Richmond fans, but this should be a walk in the park for Freo. And they shouldn't look to use him too much in this game, which hopefully it boosts up his forward eligibility, because I think, from what I can remember from the Code Sports article they released, he's at, I think, 17 or 15 forward percent and 17 mid percent, which is a bit annoying because, of course, I think you need 35% to get DPP, and hopefully he can get it. If he doesn't, I am content with having McAndrew on the bench. He'll still generate cash. It'll hurt. Hopefully Murdoch will be back by then. Hopefully Noah Anderson will find his rhythm, and hopefully I'll have filled up the backline a bit more, and so it won't be affecting me. So I'm going to press the optimize button, and I'm going to go through my VCs and Cs, which have not changed one bit. Still going with the VC on Cherry against Essendon. As I said before, potential for a 180 score. Zach Butters against West Coast. Again, last time they played in the preseason game, Zach Butters got, I think, 177. So could be on for another big score. And I'm going to have a look at who was the most traded in this round so far, if I can find it. Here. So, most traded in out of everyone is Dan Houston. Now, Dan Houston is someone I think we can afford to wait 1 week on. If you really need the score now, then by all means, go for it. I don't hate the pick. But we pull up the injury lists, and I'll scroll down to Collingwood now. Jeremy Howe and Darcy Moore are both a test. And that's a significant part of the backline coming back in. And I know Craig McRae has said that Dan Houston's the guy, but I just like to see him, how he fares up with those two juggernauts in the backline. Braden Cook, definitely understand it. Of course, it's really hard to find someone to replace Christian Petrarca, and not a lot of people have an extra rookie forward or an extra forward in general. So Braden Cook, and maybe I've seen Shai Bolton down here. I've seen a couple Murphy Reeds. Definitely seems like the good replacement. But Braden Cook, of course, he's a good cash cow. He should make a lot of money. Tristan Cherry, Jack Watkins, those are trades I've made. Lockie Ash is someone I've got on my watch list. And so I've made a little trade targets board that I will just bring over here now. And so on the board for the primos, I've got Sherry, Worrell, Houston, Ash. Now I want to fill out my defensive line, and we can cross Cherry off this list. Then for the rookies, Watkins and Cook, I'm bringing in this round. And then Rogers, Jones, and Skerry, I think, are a watch, because if we filter to those who've played less than 3 matches, we go price by point to get the best rookies. Skerry and Chase Jones are quite high on this list. Chase Jones scored an 86, and I want to see how he goes again in the wings. If he gets a good score against Geelong, who have no wings, I think he should be a must-have, an easy replacement for the likes of Carroll. Christopher Skerry, another one of these 99k rookies. If he backs up this score, I also think he'll be a must-have. Then we go down the list. McKelty Lafau is actually probably someone I'm going to put on this list. So I'll put him. Because with the likes of Toby Nankervis out, I think they're going to bring in a rookie ruckman. We will filter by rucks. Richmond. They'll probably bring in Oliver Hayes-Brown. I don't imagine them using Samson Ryan. But McKelty Lafau, I think he did most of the ruck work once Nank was out. And so I think he'll definitely be that second ruck option, which should guarantee him a spot on the team. And I think he's that good anyway. Of course, plays for Richmond as a forward, so it's probably one of the hardest spots to earn points but he got a 72 last game, and hopefully he scores quite well. And then Jake Rogers, he's gotten 2 pretty good scores off the bat. He got a 96 against West Coast and a 70 against Richmond. And then with Christian Petrarca being out, he might get some more time in that Gold Coast Suns midfield. Of course, you'll have Noah Anderson, you'll have Alex Davies, and surely Took Miller will pick up a bit more of the slack. And then you'll have, hopefully, Jake Rogers, and then maybe Bailey Humphries, or Bailey Humphries and then maybe Jake Rogers vying for a spot. Although, the one downside with Jake Rogers is that he is at that elevated 180k mark. And then Jack Lukosius, I'm not considering him, especially because he's that expensive, but at 110 is not to be scoffed at. Of course, people have been bringing in a Dersma. It's a good pick, but I don't know, I can't bring myself to spend that much on a rookie, especially now, especially when there's the likes of a Watkins and a Braden Cook who look to have solidified roles. Cooper Duff-Taylor, same story. Max Condigianis, just scoring's not there. There's so many better options. That looks about it for the rookies. And so, I think we're going to have a look at the injury list. So scroll back up to the top and have a look at who's Supercoach relevant on this list. So Calamar Chi obviously is out. So is Rory Ladd for those who picked him as a pod. Josh Worrell, he is a test. And so if he doesn't come back good, I can see a lot of people bringing in Houston over him. And as well with Josh Worrell, Mitch Hinge is a week away. He's someone who took a decent chunk of the kick-ins last year, I think averaging about 2 a game. That might affect how well Worrell scores, especially with the amount of people taking kick-ins in that Adelaide backline, but it shouldn't affect him too much. Going down to Brisbane, not really anything that relevant here. Dan Annabelle's out for quite a bit. I don't think anyone had him anyway. Hugh McCluggage is a test. Hopefully he comes back. He'll drop a bit in price and should be one you look to get about round 5 or round 6. Of course, with that, I think it was a 15 in his price cycle. Yeah, 13 in his price cycle, breaking him to 240. And we'll just do a quick price projection. If he's scoring 110s, he should drop down to about 580. If he scores 105s, then 150. And let's say they rest him in for the first 2 games, he gets 90. It'll go down to about 540. And so this will be a very, very good price to bring in Hugh McCluggage. And he doesn't even have that bad of a buy. I think it's round 15 or 16, I think. So for Carlton, no one really Supercoach relevant here. Adam Sherr as a test might impact Sam Walsh or Jagger Smith, but shouldn't do that much damage. Collingwood, of course, Jeremy Howe, Darcy Moore could affect Dan Houston. Essendon, it's not as big as it was last year. Dyson Sharp, of course, is a test. Nick Bryan, a week away, but you'll expect him to come back through the VFL, considering it was a pretty bad knee injury. Mason Redman also out, so those of you who might have a Archie Roberts could see a bit of an uptick in scoring from him. Vigo Vizzatini out. Fremantle, Hayden Young is 2 to 3 weeks away, so if you held him hoping he'd be back, it's not good news. There is another person you have to trade out of your teams. And Mason Cox putting pressure on Docker's big men. That if they bring him in as a third ruck, that's a lot of forward time for Jackson, hopefully, because Mason Cox would be an ideal second ruck, probably even better than Jackson, given just his height. And so hopefully that means a lot more forward time for Luke Jackson. Going to Geelong, Warple coming in might affect like some of Max Holmes, who a lot of people have gone with. I don't see that much though, given how much they tag. Although in saying that, I think they are playing, or they're playing Adelaide, who is a team that there's a lot of tag targets on that team. But I just think it shouldn't affect the likes of a Holmes or a Smith that much, so definitely not enough to dissuade anyone from picking him. Gold Coast, Christian Petrarca. Bailey Humphrey suspended. That's actually very good news for the likes of a Leo Lombard or a Jake Rogers. More midfield time for them. Matt Rao, a finger, 1 to 3 weeks away. He'll be one to look to hopefully get back in if he drops a little bit. Maybe even after the buys, actually, for both Rao and Petrarca. For the Giants, doesn't look to be that much here. Brent Daniels a test. Toby Bedford a test. So if we look at who the Giants are playing, I don't have any Giants players. If we look at who the Giants are playing, Collingwood, if he's back then, could see a tag on Nick Dacos. Might want to wait a week on him. Sydney, there's no midfielders left for Sydney. North, a tag on Sheasel maybe. Gold Coast, a tag on either Track if he's back or Noah Anderson. You know, I think a lot of us, Supercoach-wise, hate Toby Bedford because of his tagging abilities. But he is one to watch. For Hawthorn, not really anyone. Matt Leray, I don't think he's going to get a spot. Henry Huswaite, definitely not. Melbourne, no one here. North Melbourne, Josh Goda, no one else. George Wardlaw, although he's one to come back, might affect if you're going to go a Harry Sheasel captaincy, though it shouldn't affect it too much. I'd assume he'd be on more managed minutes. Charlie Spargo also might replace the likes of a Dovison. Wouldn't assume he would. I'd assume someone like a Constantine would be out, but something to watch. Port Adelaide, Miles Bergman out. Connor Rosie out. It's a shame, but of course more midfield minutes for Jack Watkins. Richmond, Nank out for 6 to 8 weeks. That's actually quite a while. So if we look at who Richmond play in the next 6 to 8 weeks, of course it's round 3 now, so it'd be weeks 8 to 10 that he comes back in. So hopefully McAndrews gets a good score, but there's a lot of good ruckmen here. There's Jackson, Sherry, Gawn, likes of maybe a Marshall if you have him, and if he's out a bit longer than a Grundy. So good news for ruck owners. Josh Smiley, unfortunately, 5 to 8 weeks. Sam Cumming, TBD. So no Richmond rookies coming through. St Kilda, Jack McRae 2 weeks out. Might affect the Naz a little bit. Hunter Clark 1 week out. So potentially offloading Jack Carroll after the buys, or before his buy, of course, because Hunter Clark plays that similar halfback role, and you'd assume Carroll gets kicked out. But I think a lot of us were planning to trade Carroll out anyway, especially with his break-even at -11. So there's not that much cash gen left in him. Sydney, Goulden, 3 to 4 months. Heaney is a test, so of course they have a bye this week. Maybe next week Heaney could be one to bring back in, because of course it's not like he had that much of an injury affected score. If we look at what he scored, it was an 89 then a 98, so his break even is still quite high. He's got West Coast, then Gold Coast, GWS, Western Bulldogs, so it's a bit of a hard run. You'd expect him to score around about these scores, and you could get him maybe at a 540 ahead of round 8, where they've got Melbourne, the North, good matchups. So Isaac Heaney, a trade target for later on in the season. West Coast, not really anyone who should be knocking anyone out of a spot. Of course, Milan Murdoch, to be confirmed. It was a hamstring awareness, I think, and he played out the game with it, so it shouldn't be that bad. He should be back in hopefully 2 to 3 weeks. Hopefully he plays that one extra game before the DPP swings, because he was looking pretty good for DPP. But no one else on here. Josh Lindsay. Josh Lindsay is an option to replace Edwards, so I'd say if you have the likes of a Sharp injured, or if you have both of a Rosie and a Petrarca, and maybe a Young, don't rush to trade out Lindsay. Could still be a watch. And going down to the Dogs, Libba out with a hamstring. Cody Waitman's been out for, 2 years now. But nothing that looks too bad for Supercoach wise. Treloar, though, playing restricted minutes in the VFL, but put his hand up for a spot. So he could be one you watch. If he puts out 200s, then you get him. And that is the end of the injury list, and so the end of this trade video. So if you liked it, feel free to like and subscribe. Comment down below how much your teams have been affected by injury this round, who you're thinking of bringing in, and I'll see you in the round wrap on Monday. Happy coaching.